Ladies and gentlemen, as the entitled person to open the discussions of the general meeting of the company Spółka PGE, Polska Grupa Energetyczna, I would like to welcome everyone gathered here, the shareholders of the company, the notary public and all other present employees of the company, representatives of the press, representatives of the auditor office. I would like to welcome everyone wholeheartedly fulfilling my obligations. I hereby open the discussions of the general meeting. Before we start with the election of a chairperson of the general meeting, I would like to ask to submit the list, the attendance lists, who's present here among shareholders at the general meeting. I have the list here, and I'm giving it to the notary. I'll inform everyone now about the system of voting through which we'll be voting all points of our agenda. This is going to be an electronic system led by the Unicom company. And I would like to ask the representative of this company for a short information what the voting will look like. Hello, everyone. Everyone among the shareholders or persons entitled to vote has received a pilot to vote and a card. The card should be put inside. If it's put in correctly, its number is shown. You can see the digits of the card, and we'll be voting with the buttons with different colors. So we have the green button, yes, yellow button, withheld vote, and no in red color. On the screen, there will be an information that the voting was started, and you'll see it also on your remote controls, and you have to make a decision. So press the button with the decision you want to make, yes, no, or abstain. After pressing the button with the decision, the information will be shown on your little screens, and if it's in accordance to your vote, you have to confirm it again with the enter. After doing that, there should be a communication that your vote was registered. If someone will not press any buttons, he's not going to participate in voting. There's also an option of split voting. If anyone would like to use this option, then first of all, after starting the voting, instead of choosing the decision buttons, you should press enter, and then using the buttons on the side, you can define how many shares will be voting for, how many shares will be voting against, how many shares will be abstaining, and you have to, again, after making a decision, press enter. If you have any doubts, I'm here for the entire time of the general meeting, and I can clarify anything if it's still unclear. I'm going to ask if there are any other questions regarding voting. I don't see any, so I'll start to fulfill the point of the election of a chairperson of the general meeting. On behalf of the shareholder of the State Treasury, I would like to propose the candidate, Mr. Jacek Mariusz Czajka. Are there any other candidates for this position? I'll ask Mr. Czajka if he agrees. He agrees, so there will be voting now over the election of a chairperson of the general meeting.
Czy wszyscy przedstawiciele?
That all representatives of the shareholders had the possibility to cast a vote. Anyone had any problems? I don't see anyone like that. Maybe there is a problem.
Tak, okej. To bym poprosił o wyniki. Zamykam głosowanie.
So I'm closing the vote over the election of a chairperson of the general meeting. I would like to ask to see the results of this vote.
Dziękuję bardzo. Stwierdzam.
In the result of voting over the election of the chairperson of the general meeting, there were 1.5 billion, 541 million of valid votes from 1.5 billion votes, which is 89.0.7, etc., of the percentage of the capital for the election of Mr. Mariusz Czajka.
35 814 głosów. Nikt nie głosował przeciw.
Nobody voted against. Abstaining by 45,418. I'm sorry, I cannot see the numbers because of the camera. Mariusz Czajka was chosen for the chairperson of the general meeting. I congratulate you and I forward to you the leadership of the further part of the meeting.
Dobrze, dziękuję Państwu za wybór.
Thank you for your choice for the elections. So we'll go to the meeting of the company, the ordinary general meeting, the first activity on our agenda.
Lista uczestników walnego zgromadzenia.
The list of the participants of the general meeting has been signed. I'm stating that the general meeting, I ascertain the correctness of the convening of the general meeting on the 17th of May. The information was posted on the internet, and the list of persons entitled is also submitted as required. So all issues related to the correctness of convening the general meeting has been fulfilled, and the general meeting is entitled to adopt resolutions according to the agenda of today's meeting.
To już mam tak po kolei. Dobra, czyli pierwszą. Z porządkiem.
According to the agenda, before we will vote, actually, the agenda of today's general meeting, we have a point, an item regarding the adoption of a decision not to elect the returning committee, and there is a resolution of the ordinary general meeting of PGE, Polska Grupa Energetyczna Spółka Akcyjna of 23rd of June 2010, concerning the adoption of a decision not to elect the returning committee. The ordinary general meeting of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna Spółka Akcyjna with the registered office in Warsaw adopts as follows, acting pursuant to 16 clause 6 of the regulation of the general meeting of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. The ordinary general meeting adopts a decision not to elect the returning committee. Paragraph number 2, the resolution becomes effective as at the time of its adoption. If there are no remarks insofar as this item on the agenda, I would like to start the vote.
Tak, wszyscy oddali głos.
Everyone has cast their vote, so I would like to close the vote and please present the results to us. So the results of the vote, there were 1,541,035,068 votes, for 1,541,035,068 votes. I'm stating that the resolution has the majority required. Therefore, our general meeting has decided that the
Kolejna zgodnie.
And now, in accordance with the agenda, the next item is the adoption of the agenda of the general meeting. Just with the item that has been voted on just in a moment. Just let me read the totality of the resolution of the general meeting of PGE of June 31st concerning the adoption of the agenda of the ordinary general meeting. The ordinary general meeting of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna Spółka Akcyjna with a registered office in Warsaw adopts as follows. Paragraph 1. The ordinary general meeting of the company adopts the following agenda of the ordinary general meeting. 1. The opening of the general meeting. 2. The election of the chairperson of the general meeting. 3. The ascertainment of the correctness of convening the general meeting and its capability of adopting binding decisions. 4. The adoption of decision not to elect the returning committee. 5. Adoption of the agenda of the general meeting. 6. The adoption of a resolution concerning the consideration and approval of the financial statements of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. for 2009. 7. The adoption of a resolution concerning the consideration and approval of the management board's report on the activities of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. for 2009. 8. The adoption of the resolution concerning the consideration and approval of the consolidated financial statements consistent with IFRS of the PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna Capital Group for 2009. 9. The adoption of a resolution concerning the consideration and approval of the management board's consolidated reports of the activities of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna Capital Group for 2009. 10. The adoption of a resolution concerning the distribution of the company's net profit for the financial year 2009, as well as the determination of the dividend date and the dividend payment date. 11. The adoption of a resolution concerning the granting of discharge to the members of the management board and supervisory board. 12. The adoption of a resolution concerning the granting of an annual award to President of the Management Board for 2009. 13. The adoption of a resolution concerning changes to the company's statutes. And 14. The closing of the general meeting. Paragraph 2. The resolution becomes effective as of the date of its adoption. Let me remind you that the whole of the capital is not represented, so this agenda may not be expanded. Unless you have any questions to this item, let me open the voting on this resolution, which I have just presented to you. Please cast your votes.
Jeżeli wszyscy oddali głos.
Okay, if everybody has cast their votes, I'm closing the voting and please provide us with the results. The results of the votes regarding the agenda, there have been 1,401,081,232 billion, representing 89.5% of the share capital. In favor of the resolution, 1,537,830,648. None against. Abstained 3,250,584 votes. I conclude that this resolution has been adopted. Let's now pass on to the next item, item 7. This is 6, the adoption of a resolution concerning the consideration and approval of the financial statements of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. for the year 2009. And in this item, before I read the draft of the resolution, I have a question whether the board will be presenting or should we limit ourselves to the questions, to any questions from the shareholders only to this item. dear Chair, we would like to pass on to the Q&A session if there are any from the shareholders. The financial statements are very extensive. I think everybody has read them. If there are any questions, we'll be happy to address them. Thank you. In conjunction with this, the draft of the resolution, let me read it, and then I will allow you to ask any questions from the shareholders. If there are no questions, then I'm going to submit it to voting. So, resolution, next number of the ordinary general meeting of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. of June 3rd, 2010, concerning the consideration and approval of the management boards of the financial statements of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna for the year 2009, the ordinary general meeting of PGE Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A. with a registered office in Warsaw adopts as follows. Paragraph 1.